Hello, my dear students of history of SH second year. In our previous class, we have discussed about Al-Biruni and his account on India named Kitabul Hind. Today, we'll discuss another interesting traveler's account. His name is Ibn Battuta, or sometimes pronounced as Ibn Battuta. In fact, today's class is a continuation of our previous class, which belonged to our book number 2 of the chapter 5, Through the Eyes of Travelers. Uh, Now, Ibn Battuta was an Moroccan traveler. He visited India in 14th century. He was born at Tangier, uh, which is situated in the northern part of Africa. And Ibn Battuta was born in 1304, and indeed, Ibn Battuta was an interesting personality. He had a very unique style of writings and a unique type of idea of philosophy regarding knowledge, and he considered the experience gained through traveling is more important than more important source of knowledge than the books. Uh, he's traveling. He traveling in the unknown countries and to acquire knowledge about the unknown people was Ibn Battuta's basic passion of his life, and perhaps this is the reason that he is frequently called as an uh, inveterate traveler. Inveterate means inborn traveler, and we'll find a certain unique uh, or something special characteristics of Ibn Battuta's style of writing and his mode of expression. Uh, Today, we'll discuss about his the life and the route he followed to travel the Central Asian countries and the Southeast Asian countries, particularly Asia, in Asian countries, in India and China. As I earlier mentioned that the Ibn Battuta was born in 1304 at Tangier in Morocco. He started his travel from Morocco in 1325. He visited almost all of the Islamic world and many non-Islamic countries also, including Central Asia, Southeast Asia, India and China. And one more interesting information is that he traveled around 1,17,000 kilometers in his life. And also, it is also interesting to note here that he spent over a period of 30 years in traveling in his life. And uh, basically, he belonged to a very elite class of people in his hometown, and his family members are learned, and he himself, Ibn Battuta himself, was an Islamic scholar, and he was a renowned scholar of Sharia. He knows the very well, conversed with the Islamic laws, and sometimes scholars also mention him as an interpreter of Islamic theology and all that. And Ibn Battuta came to India through Central Asia, and he reached in Sindh in 1333. At that time, India was under the sultans of Delhi, particularly the Tughlaqs, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the sultan who was in the throne of Delhi. After hearing the information of the arrival of Ibn Battuta in Sindh, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, invited him to mm, come to Delhi, and he acknowledged uh, him as, or he was appointed as a Qazi in the Sultanate of Delhi, and at the same time, it is also known that Ibn Battuta remained in the post of Qazi for about 10 to 11 years. And at that period of time, he observed the Indian culture, Indian religion, Indian society, the economy, village economy, all that. And in 1342, he proceeded to China as envoy to Mughal ruler, to Mongol ruler. Before going to China, he also traveled Malabar coast through Central Asia, and it is also uh, said by the scholars that he also visited Bengal and Assam. Ibn Battuta sailed to China through Sumatra and reached at the Chinese port at Zaitun. And he also traveled extensively in China, and though he remained a very short period of time in China, and he returned to his homeland in 1347. Now the now we'll discuss a bit on the Ibn Battuta's account, which is popularly which is known as Rihala, and some glimpses of Indian culture and Indian religion he depicted in his Rihala. Uh, Ibn Battuta meticulously recorded his traveling accounts, and it was compiled as a book. In fact, he was asked by a local ruler of Morocco to compile this work, and sponsored, rather sponsored, to compile his travel experiences, the travel experience of Ibn Battuta. His account is known as Rihala, and it was written in Arabic language. Now, you must be wanting to know that what actually the word term Rihala means. Rihala refers to both the word of journey and travelogue in Arabic language. It can be said as a travelogue, or it can be saying it is also used as the word meaning of journey in Arabic language. Rather, it was a classical Arabic word. According to Ibn Battuta, uh, agricultural economy was highly productive, and land of the Indian villages were very fertile. As a result, Indian farmers grew two crops in a year. That is one of the most uh, important information provided by Ibn Battuta regarding the economy of the medieval India. He said that Indian village economy was prosperous, and Indian farmers used to cultivate two times in a year. That means two crops in a year, which proves that India was in prosperous country in the medieval time. That is how its account is been taken as an important source material for the reconstruction of medieval Indian history, particularly the socio-economic history of the medieval time. Ibn Battuta also mentioned that Indian goods were in a great demand in Central and Southeast Asia, particularly cotton, cloths, muslin, silk, brocade, and satin. He also observed, or he also given a very vivid information on the trade economies of India, trade and commerce of India in the medieval time. He said that the Indian goods were uh, in a great demand in the markets of the Central Asia and Southeast Asia, particularly the Indian products of clothes. Ibn Battuta also saw that the Indian subcontinent was a part of global network communication. That means India was at that period of time well connected with the other parts of the world in the economic in commercial spheres of life. The commercial relation between the Central Asia and the Southeast Asia was very smooth at that time. He also described about the cities of India, and according to his Rihala, Ibn Battuta tried to say that Indian city, among the Indian cities, Delhi was the biggest city at that time. He also mentioned about Daulatabad, the city where once Muhammad bin Tughlaq transferred his capital. Uh, while describing the cities of India, he mentioned another important point, that the bazaars in the Indian cities were the main centers of economic transaction in India. And he also described about the bazaars, activities of bazaars. He tried to say that Indian bazaars or Indian markets were well decorated, and he also mentioned that Indian bazaars were crowded bazaars. Lots of people were gathered in bazaars, not only exchanging the goods. In some activities he mentioned in while describing the bazaars of the Indian subcontinent. Particularly, he mentioned some points here that the Indian bazaars have multiple activities. Sometimes people were gathered in bazaar to to for entertainment, that is like dance and musics were also performed in the bazaars. And this is how he tried to give a picture of the contemporary bazaars of Indian subcontinent. Another interesting point Ibn Battuta mentioned, that was not mentioned by other travelers, that the chewing of pan and betel nut by the Indians, and the fruits, about the fruits he also mentioned about the coconut of the coconut products of the Indian people, and how coconuts have been used by the Indians. These are the important, these are the interesting points who tried to mention in his Rihala. And at the last, that is the another important aspect he tried to uh, try to convey about the Indians, was the institution of slavery in India in medieval time. My dear students, about slavery we have already studied in our 11th class, in class 11's book. In your 11th course, class 11's course, we have studied about the institution of slavery in the Roman Republic, and at the same time we also studied about the institution of slavery in the Islamic world. Here we need to know one point very clear, that in any of the Indian ancient texts mention about the existence of slavery in ancient India. And though the in a real sense, that in India the slavery, it will be wrong to say that there was no institution of slavery in ancient time, but it is sure that the form of institution of slavery which was existed in ancient India and the European countries or in Central Asia was quite different. We never witness any documents or any treatise on the existence of slavery in ancient India. Here we are concerned with the medieval society where slavery was prevalent. According to Ibn Battuta, the slavery was very much present in medieval Indian society. And he also very clearly said that slaves were openly sold in the market like any other commodities, and sometimes they were also exchanged as gifts among the wealthier peoples. And Ibn Battuta, in his account, it is also clearly mentioned that about the existence of different types of slaves in medieval India. And he also another important point or another important aspects of the institution of slavery has been referred by Ibn Battuta, that was the female slaves. He witnessed or he found female slaves were in service of the Sultan, excel in music and dance. That means the female slaves were also engaged in the entertainment purpose of the wealthier people. The dance, various dance has been organized for the entertainment purpose of the higher class people. Though, so slaves were also, apart from this, slaves were also used as domestic helper, and that is domestic labor. And sometimes it is also seen that slaves were used in carrying man and woman in palanquins, that is dola. And another important aspect and very, regarding the woman slave, Ibn Battuta said that women slaves were cheaper than the male slaves. That is why, that was the reason that most of the families can afford number of female slaves in a family. That means condition of the female slaves were not, in comparison to the male slave, their condition were bad in a sense. Most of the female slaves were actually captured in the raids and expeditions. That means the female which were captured in the war or expedition were forcefully engaged uh, to engage as the slaves in the families, and the sometimes they are sold in the market. That the their condition was, female slaves condition was, you know it was not good, and their status in comparison to the male slaves, their condition was lower. That is the thing that he tried to say, that the condition of women not better than the better than the males. And these are the things, or these are the main points or main aspects Ibn Battuta tried to explain regarding India. And his account, which is known as Rihala, has been treated as important source material to reconstruct the medieval Indian socio-cultural history and history of the social change of the medieval times. At the same time, some scholars, particularly the Western scholars, uh, express their opinion that the accuracy or the credibility of the writings of Ibn Battuta, uh, that is Rihala, and the using of Rihala as a source material for the construction of the history of medieval times had been expressed. There some points of some points of doubts, that they simply try to say that Ibn Battuta basically basically an Islamic scholar, and sometimes he exaggerated, or sometimes he was biased in recording the events. So these are the point that is to be studied in your higher classes, and in this your level, we this much that we are enough, that how he compiled his work and what was the basic information provided by Ibn Battuta, and what was his viewpoint on the Indian agriculture, what was his viewpoint on slavery. And in your examination purpose, some objective question will be there, and the description of slavery of Ibn Battuta in Rihala maybe there in your that will be important for your examination. And the date of the uh, year when he was born and all that, and how he traveled through to India, that will be important for your examination purpose. uh, that's all for today's class, and in your next class we'll take another traveler's account, and his name is Francois Bernier from France. Thank you.